Now gives me great pleasure to introduce those whose spark will ignite our discussion today. So let's welcome Andrea Bell, Head of Mindset, Strategic Insight, and Lisa White, Director of Lifestyle and Interior and the Vision, both from WGSN, which is one of the key trend forecasting agencies based in London, with a focus on providing an authoritative view on the future. The stage is on to you.
Thank you, Stefania.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. Look at that. First of all, thank you so much for having us. We are so pleased to be at the first of hopefully many Next Design Perspectives. Lisa and myself started working with Paola, Stefania, and Dario feels like a very long time ago, to map out what were the 10 key themes going to be for the Alta Gamma Summit and how that was going to impact everything. And I think at one point, we jokingly said we had a global conference call because Paola was in an airport, Dario had to pull over in a car, Stefania had to pull over, and Lisa and myself were in airport lounges as well. And so the idea of we're being this global world to Italy and vice versa is really exciting. At WGSN, we get asked a lot about trend forecasting. What do we do? How do we do it? I promise we don't sit in a room and eat avocado toast and make a key color. There's a lot of effort that comes into it. We research across 7 platforms: society, technology, environment, politics, industry, and creativity. And from those 7 pillars, we produce forecasts that are set to not only inspire, but to impact business. So myself as head of mindset, I'm in charge of our future consumer, which is always looking at who your consumer is, which is the demographic, but more importantly, why your consumer is buying, which is the psychographic. And every company needs to make sure that they're looking at both to truly future-proof themselves. Lisa, my counterpart, is head of our creative design and concept, as well as our vision. And together, this is our first time co-presenting, so we're incredibly excited. So we'll kick it off. Sorry. Clicker. So 2020 has been branded as the future for a long time. Think about it. We all had these visions of what 2020 would look like. Some envisioned, flying cars and jets. And the real thing is 2020, as it approaches, as it's closer than ever, we really need to take time to think how we're going to craft, shape, and fix society for generations to come. We often ask ourselves, will 2020 represent a dirty finish or a clean start? And today we'd like to say it'll represent both. We're going to embrace the importance of new voices, of new multi-generational complexities, and how 5 generations are living and working together side by side. We're going to understand that our emotional needs can't solely be fixed by a smartphone, and how important a phygital world, both physical and digital, are for our mental and social well-being. And more importantly, we're going to move away from kind of tired marketing traditional structures. Those segmentations of yesteryear aren't going to drive your future consumer or who you are. And we're going to also look at today how revolutionary acts can come in form of tangible solutions. So at Next Design Perspectives today, we're going to explore these key trends and themes that will not only shape the future, but help all of us, everyone in the room and in the overflow rooms, create the future. Thank you for joining us.
So these are key future themes, our Next Design Perspectives at WGSN, because the future is going to be about who gets the equation right between consumer, between research, between design. McKinsey just released a report on the business value of design, and I highly recommend you download that tomorrow. When they took a look at what design is worth to business over a 5-year period, tracking 300 publicly listed companies, they recreated what they call the MDI, the McKinsey Design Index, which they rated companies based on the strength of their designs and their financial performance. The bottom line is that those with the highest commitment to design outperformed the other companies by as much as 2 to 1. That's enormous. And they found that executives that stayed in touch with research and the researchers acted as role models for systemic change in their companies. In the closing statement, McKinsey said, design is more than a feeling. It is a CEO-level priority for growth and long-term performance. So these are going to be some of our future themes here to talk about growth and long-term performance. We've got the Lux of Less, biofactoring, new consumer voices, in touch, so we're getting touchy-feely. The future is emotions, positive discomfort, clean consumption, all-inclusive design, and improbable collaborations. So some of these trends you might find really inspiring and intriguing. Some of them you might find a little bit worrisome, and they might even make you afraid, but don't be. In a conversation I had with an old friend, John Maida, last week, he's an American designer, executive, and technologist, a really interesting combination. He pointed out that you can't stop the future. You can be afraid, or you can be curious. And I'd like to invite us all to be curious together today. Interestingly enough, we're talking about the Lux of Less. The future is going to be about buying less but better quality. The word less no longer sounds so minimal, so sad as it did a while ago. It sounds full of potential. It's a very beautiful word. And it was a featured concept at Dutch Design Week last week in Eindhoven. We know that people are buying less product. There are numerous drivers. People are living in smaller quarters. The experience economy is upon us. It's kind of pushing the consumption economy to the side. And there's a backlash against fast fashion and the sustainable challenges it proposes. For luxury brands, this is an opportunity. People want to strip away from the excess that has taken over their lives, but when they do, they want craftsmanship and they want quality. In a recent study by KRC Research, they found that 94% of US millennials choose to own one luxury product rather than many products of less value. And China is experiencing the same thing. But what do all of us value in this room? Okay? We all have luxury items, we all like things. But what we really value, besides family and health, is time and the space to think, reflect, and be present, like we're all being present here today together. Who in this room wouldn't want an extra hour to do nothing? What would you do with that hour? And how could you give that hour to your customers? So we're going to take a look at the Lux of Less in two different areas, space and forgotten futures. As our lives speed up and time feels increasingly scarce, there's going to be a greater need for space to think and ponder. Design will make way for emptiness and create room for ourselves and our thoughts. The Campi Chapel over here on the right is my favorite place in Helsinki. If you go there, you definitely have to pop into the chapel. And it's in a very busy thoroughfare. There's a shopping mall, and there's a train station. And you've got this sort of like wooden oblong. And I went in there out of curiosity, and it was just quiet. You couldn't hear anything happening outside. You can sit and hear yourself think. And it's not about church. It's not about spirituality. It is about silence and finding yourself. And that is a very important space to give people in a city. Over there on the left is the Silent Room by Simon Huygens, more of a design example. And it's an anechoic chamber engineered to absorb all exterior sound. So you alone these negative decibel levels and gives you an extreme sensory experience that strips things back. It's an enjoyment of less. And Andrea and I were discussing in the hotel we're staying at here, this wonderful Bulgari hotel. We were looking at each other and like, can you hear anything in your room? And we're like, it's so quiet. I think I'm going to go to sleep right now. And it was just such an amazing experience. You could be alone with your thoughts. And that is a great gift. So time will be increased in the focus on home, and we're seeing that coming through very, very strongly, creating home-like retreats and places to escape, even in public and also in offices and public spaces. Home is a very important thing for millennials. Studies show that 70% of millennials spend more time at home than Gen X or boomers. This is because they're an always-on generation that needs peace and downtime. As consumers become more focused on the benefits of silence, our homes are becoming fine-tuned for quiet. We're seeing designers create environments and furniture designed to reduce sound and create an anxiety-free aura that helps people switch off from the outside world and even their thoughts sometimes. So screens and dividers are becoming important, while felt, wool, and other things like that, like cashmere, become signifiers of comfort and solitude. Felt in particular is actually very interesting because, as we know from the Joseph Beuys examples in art, it's something that protects you and can even heal you in some ways. It also blocks Wi-Fi signals. So we're seeing the offline chair over there on the right by Agatha Nowak, and it's got a pocket for your phone that acts like a silencer and shield, so you can actually relax and put it away. So there's a nostalgia for old materials like felt that makes us feel connected to the past. And the past is another very component in the Lux of Less. We will need to explore forgotten ideas of the future. We revisit our archives, go through old thoughts, reflect on the past, and instead of just always moving on to the next thing, take a time to remember and to elevate things that came from the past. On the left is a thing called the Palace of Failed Optimism. It's a fictitious building by the architectural practice Y, and it highlights a new interest in old thoughts. It's a place dedicated to the ideas that never came true, to the utopias that kind of died before they happened. And we know that. There's always like a board meeting that says, we're not going to do that, or creative meeting that says, I don't think we're ready for that, or customers that maybe didn't buy something. But because it didn't work in the past doesn't mean it won't work now. Sometimes you have to go back in and pull something out and say, this is right for now. And I love the shape of this building because it's not a closed pyramid with some sort of sarcophagus inside. It's open, and the information is there, and you all have it in your businesses. The information is there within them. So people want to feel connected to the history of your brand. As part of the latest London Design Festival there on the right, the UK design studio Sigmar and Prague-based collective Okolo joined forces to present the lost masterpiece of the Hotel Praha. This is a hotel completed in 1981 at the height of communism. It took 6 years to make, and it was a playground for senior party members. So much for that reason, it was destroyed in 2014. And some people were saying, oh my goodness, how could you destroy this amazing building that was, took so much care? And others were like, I remember looking at that building, standing in line for bread and bananas, I'm so glad it's down. So there's a lot of friction going on there. But what was really interesting is they saved the furniture. And that was on show in London. One of the organizers said, today many items are designed with a short lifespan in order to make us buy more. In contrast, the pieces from the Hotel Praha were built to last. They used the best possible craft skills remaining in Czechoslovakia. They were a unique combination of design, craft, and politics. That's a very interesting combination. But why is Forgotten Futures necessary for future designs? Because this can impact the bottom line. Brand amnesia is a growing concern. We've been discussing it with a lot of our clients. As more people have flexible careers and leave companies, these entire departments are left without a history and a knowledge of the brand. Every time somebody leaves their job, a chunk of the organization's memory leaves too. So how can we see through those long-term projects or avoid past mistakes or pull the other ones out of the wastebasket? So a growing number of companies, including Apple, Citicorp, and David Nieper Luxury in the UK, have employed what they're calling a new kind of CMO. It's this Chief Memory Officer. So they archive the company's history and review past projects, the successful and unsuccessful ones, before any new thing is launched. So as company history becomes important for future projects, diving into past archives is very important as well. And so many companies done this with a lot of success. Just wanted to pull out a few here. Yoji Yamamoto had a really interesting quote recently as well too. He said, with one eye on the past, I walk backwards into the future. So that's what brands need to do. You have to have that eye on the past, and you just have to keep one eye going both directions, which is kind of difficult, but it's an interesting balancing act. A great example here on the right is Bali for their Autumn-Winter 18 collection. It was about homecoming. And again, that word home comes up again too. It's returned to its archives for inspiration, tapping into the trend for logos right now. They looked into their archival typography from the 1920s to the 70s and came out with this really, really beautiful shoe design that made you feel connected to the past, but it looked resolutely contemporary. For Demna Ghazalia, over there on the left, pouring into the archive of garments is a must. The centerpiece of his debut men's collection in 2017 revolved around this coat. And basically, he literally went in the archive. He was in the basement and found this box, opened the box, and found a coat made by Cristobal Balenciaga himself and never finished. Again, it was in that forgotten utopias thing. He pulled it out and said, this is the cornerstone of the future. And at that time, as you know, menswear was very slim and trim and close to the body. He said this boxy look is going to be it. And he based his entire collection on that. So really taking a look at the importance of going back to past masters and geniuses and being a disruptor with that. Our second trend is biofaction. This has been a favorite one of mine for a while because I get to be the wacky design geek in the office that comes out with these things and people are looking at me like, what are you talking about? So it's really important to know that this is not just one of those wacky design things. This is the future of design. We're moving from the machine age to the digital age to the organism age. Products will no longer just be manufactured, they will be grown, as we will be working with living organisms to open up a symbiotic material economy. Designers will be taking living materials such as algae, mycelium, and bacteria to the next level and creating beauty from them, harnessing nature and technology and engineering supernatural solutions. So new alternatives to natural products, such as lab-grown jewels, will offer ethical luxury made in collaboration with the plant world and the natural world. Biofactoring, which is merging biological organisms in manufacturing, could be the future of production. My favorite example is the chair on the right, grown by a guy named Gavin Munro in the Lake District of the UK. He has an orchard of chairs. The chairs take 7 years to grow. And basically, instead of you would take wood or a tree, chop it down, take the wood, the nails, and the glue, and make a chair with your hands. This actually is being made with nature. So he grows the tree and basically splices all of the branches together, and they grow together so that after 7 years, you chop down the tree, turn it upside down, and you have a chair. He calls this nature's Zen 3D printing. New material innovations combine the continuing fast pace of technology and engineering with a growing need to work alongside nature. So Eric Klarenbeck and Marcia Drost over here on the right, they are making a new bioplastic using 3D printed algae, seaweed. And it is so beautiful. It almost rivals Venetian glass. And I'm exaggerating a bit here, but it is absolutely stunning. And it's made from seaweed that is clogging waterways. So they're really seeing it as a sustainable alternative to plastic. And it's a major selling point, the beauty of this product. On the left is Modern Meadow, the biofabricated leather that's grown using collagen cells, removing animals entirely from the process without compromising on quality. And Suzanne Lee will fill you in on the developments in her presentation a bit later. Professor Carol Collett from Central St. Martin's in London, her product there on the left, speaks of grow made, where the hierarchy between matter and form is transformed into a symbiotic and evolving relationship. Her mycelium rubber that you're seeing there, she literally cooked this up in her kitchen in a mug and mixed the mycelium in, put it away for 2 weeks, pulled it out and said, oh my goodness, the mycelium had actually inscribed those rose designs that you see in there naturally. It was something completely unplanned and fantastic. And it's very interesting to note here that she's working with LVMH. So really, this is being taken very, very seriously in the business and design and luxury world. She's also got a project to create fur based on mycelium. So this is even farther into the future. On the right is the work of Natsai Odriceza, who you'll meet later, a designer, systems thinker, and storyteller working at the intersection of design and biology, which is a really great mix. As she explains, biology has become a design space, and she aims to establish craft-oriented methodologies in biotech. She's pioneering systems of dyeing and printing using pigment produced by bacteria. And we've been trained to think bacteria is a no-no for so long, and bacteria is building a lot of what's around us and will actually save us in the future. She's proposing the innovation as a sustainable alternative to current polluting processes for dyeing. And she credits biological systems with an inherent eco-conscience. Nature is pretty smart. The idea of live and things that are living, like bacteria, is a trend that we've seen coming from the food industry. And I urge you all to always take a look at what's happening in the food industry. You're very lucky to have a very wonderful one here. I always say that food is to design what lipstick is to fashion. That's where you see a lot of experimentation on a daily basis, and you see a lot of acceptance coming early there too. So if you take a look at the food industry right now, we're seeing the rise of fermented food, the kombucha, the sourdough, the kimchi. That means the public is actually really curious in this, and they know it's bringing them better health. So it will also bring design health in the future. At the Biodesign Show in London, Italian graduate Piero D'Angelo showed his project. It's a student project, but I loved it. It's called Grow Your Own Couture. It's for creating luxury clothing grown from moss and lichen. The idea is there would be a couture cloth that you would put in a bath of moss and lichen, and you could grow it at home. It's also something that would clean the air as you wear the clothes. So it's really a bio garment to filter the air that's made couture quality. And we will soon be able to grow scent as well. This is a speculative work by Dr. Alexander Daisy Ginsburg and Cecil Tolas, who you'll be meeting later as well too, a Center researcher, and Ginkgo Bioworks. Together, they've been able to extract and sequence the DNA of extinct plants and synthesize those associated with scent, basically growing them in yeast. So this type of work could open up entirely new areas of fragrance with scents we have not smelled for centuries. And this can sound very speculative, of course, but we are already seeing design like this coming to retail. Already on sale on the left is the Ultra 3 Bloom, the world's first shoe made using algae that clogs waterways from around the world. So this is a major component of this particular shoe. They developed this in collaboration with the Bloom foam, and normally foam is something that's very polluting. And it's something that's natural and soft and sustainable and beautiful, and it retails for $75. As you know, conventional shoe production involves high carbon emissions, heavy water usage, and hazardous chemicals. So determined to find a better way, Belgian designer Christelle Peters began exploring new, low-impact ways of making shoes based on cradle to cradle, and lots of fungus. The mycelium is back here too. So this is the whole idea of growing a shoe at the same time based on bio-based materials. Very interesting as well is a new mycelium process called Milo, created with Bolt Thread out in California. They're the ones who brought spider silk to the fore that you've heard about. And basically, this is a new type of leather made from mycelium. And it's going to be out there in 2019. Their very first bag they made in collaboration with Stella McCartney is at the V&A already. Very, very beautiful Falabella bag in mycelium leather. What's interesting about that is it grows in 10 days, and you can grow it for kilometers. So that is definitely going to be shaking up the industry, and the first bags are out there for 2019. The roots have been placed for biofactoring. It may sound very out there, but by 2020, expect to see this having a major impact.
Hi, guys. So what's interesting, another thing that will have a major impact on everything that we're doing today is the rise of new consumer voices. So globally, racial and ethnic identifiers are constantly shifting and changing. And with that, so are the voices of power and spending power. America's identity is rapidly changing. By 2020, more than half of the children under 18 will be multi-ethnic or multiracial. There's actually more Caucasians aging out than being born. So what does that mean? According to our US Census Bureau, by 2040, 22 years from now, Caucasians will be the minority within the US. Europe grows more ethnically and racially diverse every day as well. So we've had year-over-year rise in marriages with different races and different cultures in England, Wales, and France. And in Italy, you guys have had 172% growth of multi-ethnic marriages since 2001. That's according to the Italian Research Statistics Institute. So for businesses, what does this mean? Well, it means new lifestyle events to cater for and cater to. Think in terms of your cycle. It's no longer about a back-to-school drop or just a holiday drop. What are these new lifestyle events that we're missing out? And for businesses, how are you speaking authentically to that consumer? In the US, by 2025, one of the largest spending groups will be the Hispanic consumer. And they have a quinceañera, which is a 15th birthday party every month. And on average, the girls spend $1,500 on a dress. This includes food and family, and it's a big celebration. This isn't tied to a season. This is simply a birthday party. And it's an underserved opportunity for luxury retailers and brands to speak to their new future consumer. But what will be the largest future consumer? So globally, it's going to be Generation M, or Muslim millennials. And they're going to force soft cultural change by hard economics. Projected to be a quarter of the world's population by 2050. That's 2.8 billion people. Muslim millennials are often underserved. And it's a huge opportunity because they're spending and they want to spend with people that speak their language and understand them. Sorry, Lisa, do you mind? I'm going to switch with you. Sorry. Double dancing over here. Voila. Thank you so much. So the global Muslim spend is projected to reach $3 trillion by 2021. That's $3 trillion by 2021. And more importantly, next year, 2019, they'll spend $327 billion on apparel alone. So this cohort, Muslim millennials, actually spend more than the combined clothing markets of the UK, Germany, and India. Now, while halal fashion and beauty is a huge opportunity, so for the beauty people in the room, halal beauty is expected to be around $402 billion by 2025. And the wellness industry and the travel industry is rapidly tapping this consumer as well. But where's the biggest growth? Where do we see the biggest white space opportunity for everyone in this room? It's modest fashion. And why is it modest fashion? Because Muslim millennials want to dress like everyone else. They don't want to look like grandmas. They don't want to be wearing muumuus. They want to be wearing stylish clothes. But unfortunately, that's not always available for them. They want the same thing on the runway, just maybe a little longer, maybe a little looser. So when we talk about modest fashion, we need to think who's really driving it and who are these people that we can look to make this happen. Keep in mind, another key selling point and a reason for investment is modest fashion isn't a trend, it's a lifestyle. So it's never going to go out of style. More importantly for us, in terms of competitive analysis for everyone in the room, I'd like to say please look at the Modest, M-O-D-I-S-T. It's essentially a net-a-porter for modest fashion. There's a lot of luxury brands on there that are doing well already. Another one that we think is really interesting is an Italian designer, who's actually here, Le Double J, and he's done really well in terms of putting out the prints and the silhouettes that are on trend for that consumer, but still look stylish and have color. Again, it's not in your grandma's closet. And the third one I would definitely say is please, if you have a chance for everyone in the room, to go visit Prada Cover in Dubai. It's essentially emerging designers coming together to envision what the future of modest fashion looks like, feels like, and even how to speak and talk directly with young Muslim millennials who are going to have that impact. As luxury needs to be more inclusive, I ask the decision makers in this room to really think about who is your future consumer, how are you meeting those priorities, and more importantly, what are you designing for them? So speaking of exclusivity, right? There's kind of an elephant in the room, and that we know with Gen Z, which is the largest population, there is a youth tsunami about it. I feel like all I do is research Gen Z. It's 1.8 billion globally. For them, the future of luxury is inclusivity. And there's a huge difference between diversity and inclusivity. So Verna Meyer, she's actually VP of inclusivity for Netflix, says, diversity is being asked to the party, inclusivity is being asked to dance. And I think that's such a powerful way when we look at the difference between diversity and inclusivity. And more important, for people that are looking, how do I future-proof my business? How do I future-proof my brand? You need to look at what Gen Z defines as the future of luxury. And that's people and things that look like themselves. So when we think of luxury, we need to think, again, how will Gen Z market this world and kind of own this world? Frederick Denarp, who's CEO of Bali, has said he wants to make the future of Bali, in a certain extent, approachable. He says we are going to casualize luxury and have more casual luxury. His actual quote was, due to the casualization of our everyday, we're not changing outfits or shoes as much. And a large part of this casualization is coming from millennials and younger. They're becoming a huge part of our business, and sneakers are part of their wardrobe. So he notes that millennials purchase less dress shoes every year. They're not investing in dress shoes because of flexible workspaces, and they're not having the same job types that traditionally had. They're hyphenate creatives. So he said sneakers are on the rise. For him, he says that they're seeing more volume and more sales in luxury sneakers than the actual shoes. So that's the investment. And finally, he says, luxury used to be about showing off. Now it's more about self-expression. And for Gen Z, another thing that's really key is they want to be represented in the luxury brand. Gucci is a huge, huge brand right now with Gen Z, particularly in the States, and they have that affinity. And one of the reasons that really led it in the US, where we started tracking the turn, was when Gucci first invested in Parks, which I know many of you in the room know what Parks is. It aims to foster inclusive practices in companies and businesses, and that's really resonated with the US Gen Z. Another one that I'd like to call out is right behind me, sorry if I'm blocking it, is Jamie Major's Demi Couture line. And she basically just added different sizing, and I don't want to use the word plus sizing because she added petite sizing. She kind of put in all different body types, and she's seen 16% year-over-year growth for this line. So luxury brands are known for creating luxury products, and we need to really think about how do we change and become new thought leaders. And I can't stress that enough, because truly, if you don't innovate for Gen Z with direct-to-consumer, with the visual language changing, if you don't innovate, you will be left behind. Now, so speaking of how do we innovate and things that are changing, we are in a time of constant change, right? Everyone in this room switches between being on their phone constantly, oh, I've got to check my Instagram, oh, I got a Facebook notification, to wanting to completely opt out. We're in this weird push and pull of I'm going to be all in online, or I just don't even want to deal with it. But one thing is for sure, we're seeing this phygital world, again, that physical and digital aligning more than ever. But because of that, we crave touch. We crave touch and tactility, both physically and emotionally, more than ever. And why? Because in a world of sleek surfaces, think about it, our laptops are smooth, our cell phones are smooth, our tablets are smooth. We don't have anything that's tactile. Everything is sleek and modern. And this stat, just every time we researched it, we were blown away. Collectively, in the UK, Britons touch their phone collectively 8 billion times a day. 8 billion times a day you're touching a smooth surface. In the United States, we collectively touch our cell phones 400 billion times a day. That stat is just, and every time you hear it, I'm like, what? How are we doing this? So a focus on tactility for product and both an experience will be key trends for the future. Now, one of the key trends that we're seeing, again, that's blending this phygital world, is the emerging IoT concept of calm design. Now, what is calm design? It already exists. So it's technology that blends in seamlessly around us without us knowing that it's there. Google Home, Amazon Alexa, those are iterations of mass adoption of calm design. Now, we're seeing in fashion, it's an easy transition, right? So we've got Helioskin, AIQ, and Under Armour have all put in certain elements into the fabric, into their smart fabrics, that can check your heart rate, can check when you're sweating, and track to kind of make sure that you're okay. One of our favorite ones that we're fascinated with is this is from Aerochromatic Knitwear, based out of Hong Kong. And what this does is, based on 6 factors that measure, again, your stress levels, are you tensing, are you sweating, it tracks when you're stressed and changes based on your stress levels. And the funniest thing that we couldn't answer with we always say is, if 6 people in our business meeting and everyone's sweaters start to change, what does that mean? You're like, do we stop the meeting? Do we keep going, Jim? So that's one that we would flag up, and that's another iteration of calm design. But what's really interesting in terms of autonomous cars is the fact that they're being embedded with calm design. And globally, particularly though, so more in North America and Canada, we're seeing autonomous cars being new retail hubs, right? Because if you're not driving, what you're doing, you're either working or shopping. But one of the things that's happening with car makers is they're trying to tap into this. So this is Hyundai's mobility cockpit. It's not a dashboard, it's a mobility cockpit. And it has an emotional AI engine that senses based on when you're in the seat and different temperatures and everything, that senses if you need to be calmed or keep awake. So it actually is a scent thing which sprays. It's actually kind of alarming. We tried it. So when you're tired, it spritz lavender. When you need to be energized, it does orange. The real game changer is you can record a voice that sits inside the car. So essentially, you sit in the car, maybe you've angry or you said a cuss word, your child's voice can come on and actually say, calm down, mommy, calm down, daddy, and studies say will help you calm down. So, but this is the real game changer. So what does this mean for business today, right? Everyone in the room can see it coming. You're saying, oh, what's happening with tactility? So tactility will become even more important for fabrics. We see that completely selling through. From our in-stock, we know that'll keep going from 2023. We're also noticing that people that take things out of shelves in store are seeing higher upticks and higher footfall in the store actual space, because people can touch and see the fabric. And that's one of the key footfall drivers that's still keeping businesses alive. People say the reason I come in store is because I know I can touch it. The real game changer that I would like everyone in the room to take away is the adaptation of haptic touchscreens. And that's coming down in the future quicker than you know. So what's a haptic touchscreen? This is it on the right. This is actually me. I was a nail hand model in a previous life. So at CES, They partnered with Bonobos, and essentially when I shopped the fabric, I could touch it and feel it. So when I touched corduroys with my finger on a digital touchscreen, I could feel the corduroys. When I touched denim, I could feel the denim. The same thing with wool. And this is the first iteration of a haptic touchscreen being used in retail. The second iteration will be used for beauty. They want you to be able to physically feel on a screen. There's a lot packed into this. If anyone has any questions about it later, I'm here. I can unpack it all for you. So why is this even more important? Because once we have haptic touchscreens, right, we're truly blending this digital world. We're truly making these two worlds collide. And that means the emotional connection for brands will be even more important than ever. Because like we said, people aren't buying products anymore. We know they're buying products less and less. They're buying people, they're buying experiences, and they're buying meaning. So that is why our next trend is
the future is emotions. As the artist Olafur Eliasson indicated in his 2010 installation, feelings are facts, and they're becoming increasingly so. We're entering the meaning economy as brands recognize the need to understand consumers' emotions in order to provide more meaningful experiences through shopping and product. Harvard Business Review did a study of consumer emotion a few years ago because the companies they work with know that customers' emotions were important, but they couldn't figure out how to define the emotions, connect them, and link them to results, more importantly. During the study, they identified over 300 emotional motivators for consumers and shoppers, including wanting to feel a sense of thrill, having confidence in the future, and having a sense of well-being. And that's a tall order for shopping and for retailers. The study also said that although brands may be liked or trusted, and we know the importance of trust right now, most brands fail to align with the emotions that drive their consumers' most profitable behaviors. Even a company as successful as Apple only scored 30%. So that means we all have a lot of improvement to do in the emotion department. Consumers may be buying less, but they will be feeling more, and AI and EI open up new creative possibilities. As we get more in touch with our moods and emotions, products and services should be designed around how they make us feel. This is post-material consumerism, where brands sell consumers an emotional experience as opposed to just physical things. It's feeling in product form. Pauline van Dongen on the right, it's her Isho jacket, it's a great example. She uses touch-conducive fabrics on the cuffs and the pockets, and it tracks the wearer's feelings. So kind of like that car earlier, if you're feeling stressed, it will actually give you a little bit of a back rub. So mood-based travel is really important too. The Singapore Tourism Bureau used brainwave reading EEG headsets to organize 20 locations in Singapore based on emotional response. So you can go and say, I want to feel thrilled, I want to feel happy, I want to feel excited, and they will give you the spot that you need to visit based on that emotion. In beauty, we're seeing serotonin-boosting lip balms that make you feel happier. In wellness and fitness chromotherapy, we've all tried it out in WGSN in London. You go into chromotherapy yoga, or chroma yoga, and you do your regular workout, but it's in a room of a different color. And you choose a color based on how you want to feel when you leave. And so blue is for dynamism, red is for energy and strength. So how do you want to feel? In the future, a change in mood will be just one experience away. So tech experiences in consumer electronics are starting to bring emotional awareness and empathetic responses to their remit. Uniform's radio, there on the left, is called Solo, and it reads the facial expression of somebody coming up to the radio, and it will mirror that expression. And at the same time, too, it will match the emotion of the person to songs from Spotify that will either improve that emotion if it's not a good one, or enhance that emotion if it's a happy one. So it is something that really sort of works in symbiosis with the listener. On the right, Nick Verstant, his installation called Aura. It beams projected light that changes in color around the person based on the EEG headset they're wearing and live data, what they're feeling in the skin sensors, what's happening with their skin. So basically, you can interact with this light because it's interacting with you emotionally, not physically. At Milan Design Week 2017, Martina Rocca, an Italian who now works with us at WGSN, we're very lucky to have her, she introduced her concept for the emotional store of the future, where you buy emotions and experiences rather than products, and they're delivered through things like neuropriming headsets. So this is post-material shopping, feeling the positive emotions associated with shopping with actually not physically buying anything. So to demonstrate this, she has a series of objects that people interact with while wearing this VR headset. The objects work in tandem with the VR to trigger emotional responses in the brain and give you that shopper's high, or give you that feeling of confidence in the future that people shop for. Again, this seems really far into the future, but it's closer than you think. So what's already happening now? As consumers look for products based on services that can help them manage their moods, expect to see a steeper spike in mood-driven matchmaking content. This could be on your website, or this could be on entertainment as well too. It's browsing and buying by mood based on how we feel. This could also happen in your stores. On the right, the newly launched BBC Make Me allows users to choose their content by mood. So categories are like make me excited, make me pumped, make me think, make me hungry, make me smile, and the website prompts you. Recently, media companies, including the New York Times, ESPN, and USA Today, have rolled out ad products that say they can match ads to people in certain moods. This is actually kind of scary personally, but anyhow. The New York Times rolled out a tool called Project Feels that lets advertisers target ads to content based on emotional responses that the content is predicted to have in people. So for example, recently, an ad campaign for a nonprofit that was targeted to people reading inspirational stories, that resulted in a 25% higher donation rate than ads that weren't targeted. So the take-home is emotion sells, focus on feeling, but put people at the heart of every experience and make the product about them. In times of extreme uncertainty, the T's just gone off that, just like very, very discomfortable. The best strategy can be to push outside the comfort zone. It's said, and this is true, the 7 most expensive words in business are, "We have always done it that way." And for heritage brands, that's always difficult. A strong business foundation rooted in tradition is not negative, it's a huge positive, but complacency is. Pixar, we've all enjoyed their films, one of the most successful entertainment companies in the world, considers repeating the formulas of its past commercial successes as a greater threat to their survival than occasionally commercial flops. That was also in the McKinsey design report. In today's retail world, you have to do things differently. You have to enter that discomfort zone by trying out challenging new ideas and systems. For creatives, entering a discomfort zone is essential. We need to feel to create. Take Lena Bakova on the left, a design student who has the fashion logos tattooed in her skin in her own blood. She's very, very driven. In time, her body absorbs these tattoos, but her raw protest against fast fashion lives on. It's uncomfortable to watch. I still remember it, but it inspires action. Rei Kawakubo, who we all know and love for so many decades, she's known for her uncomfortable fashion. She says, "You can tell it's a good collection if people are afraid of it. If I do something I think is new, it will be misunderstood, but if people like it, I'll be disappointed because I haven't pushed them enough." Confrontation creation is key. Convenience-minded services such as Lyft and Netflix are freeing our lifestyles of friction. This, the experience design manager at Airbnb has told us. It has its benefits, but when we remove friction from the experience, we remove things that are important, including our ability to grow as people. He says that my proposal is we take a way to look at bringing confrontation back in. Okay, so we need to think about 3 things: confronting yourself, confronting colleagues, and confronting customers. So for himself, he decided, okay, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I'm going to take up boxing and ceramics. For confronting colleagues, Airbnb introduced a regular event for its employees to air issues, and they're called Real Talk. We're going to talk about what's really happening here in the room instead of ignoring it. In confronting customers, he pointed to pop-up sessions implemented by Netflix and We that interrupt use after a long period of play to say, "Are you still looking at this?" So how does this apply to sales? Does it really work? And we're seeing some really interesting brand activations, and they're very, very, very extreme. So for 2 days in September 2017, tech materials company 37.5 opened a pop-up shop dangling off the side of a cliff in Colorado. I didn't go. So basically, you had 70 climbers went, though. They climbed up there, and they got all sorts of free merchandise. And they also donated $15,000 to improving local trail conditions. But overall media impressions totaled 300 million. valued at $850,000. That's enormous. It was picked up all over the place. Benefit Cosmetics over there on the left, they took activation to new heights. They found that a lot of women, 4 in 10, were afraid of doing their eyebrows. They thought it would be too extreme. So they started the extreme brow bar. So you would go on this forklift 20 meters up high, and they would do your brows and make you, just show you that it's actually not that scary after all. So they took somebody's fear and made it into something really, really fun. And designing discomfort in retail, we're seeing a lot of that too, like you saw with the Bon Marché in the beginning. Looking at something where people are like, where am I? Who am I? What is this space? And it's very sort of optical illusions, and it's also very Instagrammable. And being in a place like Christian Louboutin's store makes you think, oh my goodness, this is so uncomfortable, but it's really fun. And clean consumption, clean consuming. From the food on our plates to the clothes on our backs, consumers now have sustainability front of mind. We're talking about sustainability, you're all thinking, oh no, not that again. But it's going mass, it's going big, it's going mainstream. A Unilever study found that 33% of consumers are now choosing to buy from brands that are doing environmental or social good. Mintel found that 58% of urban Chinese consumers are willing to pay more for ethical brands. But the world economy is only 9% circular. We have to catch up with what consumers want. So it's a key maker of luxury status. It shows you have the emotional intelligence to make better choices when you consume sustainably. So millennials and Gen Z, they have a new concept of luxury. They want authentic sustainability. We're seeing a new wave of surprising luxury materials that are recycled and remade from waste. And luxury really means consuming with a clean conscience. Sustainability is now stylish. From an aesthetic perspective, we're taking it Dirk van der Kooi on the right. That was made, the table is made from recycled CDs, but looks like an amazing new mineral. We're taking a look at Ferragamo, who came out with those amazing rainbow future shoes that were first created for Judy Garland in suede, but now are reincarnated into crochet and entirely sustainable. So sometimes you just need to take one product to do it 100% right, and that product will be a template for doing other products 100% right. You don't have to take a huge bite and do it all at once. Consumers, however, want to buy into the whole package, and that is design, quality, and sustainability. We can't get around it. So we're looking at new material luxuries, and these are some that I totally love. We've got palm leather over there on the right. That's Tade Verhoeven, who showed that at Dutch Design Week, and it's made from the waste leaves of betel trees in India, and there are 80 million of them. So what do you do with this waste? You can make it into very luxurious leather. And over there on the left, this is Andrea Bell's fish leather. You think, oof, that's going to be smelly, but it's not. And she takes it and she tans it in beautiful colors that actually weave into amazing luxury types of materials. And post-plastic retail is very important. People expect luxury packaging, but it has to be sustainable. We're seeing a lot of people foregoing their packaging. In Brooklyn, you end up with the package-free store. In China, there's the bulk house. Everybody's taking a look at how to live without packaging, how to live without plastic. And thank goodness, as you know, the EU just banned the use of single-use plastic by 2021. So we're all going to be forced into avoiding those straws. And what I love is Tiffany really embraced that and made a crazy straw in silver that is completely sustainable, and you can tell it's their brand as well too. And the last thing here in clean conscience is social growth. It's social consumption. It's about being ethically and socially clean. And Social Label is a design house based in Holland that creates beautiful products as well as economic opportunities for those who are disadvantaged and would not necessarily have a job. So they get designers like Piet Hein Eyck and Roderick Vos to work with healthcare and social groups. It's a really interesting anti-siloization to creating new products that are beautiful and sustainable. It's about slow design, but especially about human dignity, which brings us to our next topic.
Okay, we're slightly over time, so I'm going to do the American thing and really go through these. So if you guys will bear with me, we'll do the Spitfire trends. We'll do a trend talk. So one of the things that we're seeing is the rise of all-inclusive design. So inclusive design is currently all around us. Think wheelchair ramps, things when you get to the crosswalk and you hit the thing. But technically, for a long time, inclusive design has been missing one thing, and that's a design aesthetic, right? Because for a very long time, engineers and technologists didn't really see the need for design or the value of design. They couldn't matrix it. They couldn't measure it. They were like, why does it need to be beautiful? But as we're seeing right now, there's coming together to really make inclusive design, all-inclusive design, meaning fashion designers are actually working with technologists and engineers to create essentially fashion for all. Now, it's because truly at the end of the day, style matters. And there's 3 things that we really want to take away. Again, I'm condensing this because I don't want to go over in time, but we're seeing a few things. So Tommy Hilfiger's adaptive line for children that have disabilities, both physically and mentally, has sold out. Every time he drops it, he's dropped it too. It still embraces the modern preppy style. It's selling through at retail. One of the ones that was interesting for us was ASOS, which is on the left right here, and they unveiled just within their normal line, just clothes for people that were wheelchair bound. And it was really fascinating because a lot of the teen girls said, I finally felt like I could shop. And for some of us, shopping is a chore. We're like, oh, I don't want to go to the store. I don't want to buy this shirt. But for people that actually can't find clothes, shopping is a gift. And we need to keep that in mind. So the real surprise, though, is there's a massive untapped market for this. There's a huge market potential, which is something we need to discuss, again, outwardly and openly. The disability market represents 1.3 billion people globally who have an annual disposable income of $1 trillion. A huge influencer, she's actually a catwalk model. I'm sure you guys have seen her. She's actually walked in Milan, is Mama Katz, and she says to all luxury designers, it's time to get into the adaptive game. We'll thank you with our loyalty and with our wallets. We get asked constantly at WGSN when we work with our clients, how do we become adaptable? How do we speak to new people, new voices? So the one thing we're gonna tell you is you actually have to work with these people. A focus group isn't gonna cut it. So you need to sit there in the team and see how it works, how it will translate on a runway. A great way, which we called a runway think tank, is on the left, and this is Sydney Fashion Week, where 10 luxury designers worked with actually people of different disabilities to build clothes that came down the runway, and it had massive success. And it's about looking towards the new future designers and leaders. So again, guys, I'm trying to keep cut down on time. So one of the things we're seeing is, again, in terms of design, which is really impactful and powerful, is these young designers that are coming through with saying, we want the clothes to be fashionable but functional. The one on the left is by Angela Luna, and while she was designing actual jackets for people that were wheelchair bound, she realized they actually worked for refugees. And so the jacket is actually a tent, a backpack, it can carry a child, it can be inflatable, it can be a life raft, and it's completely sustainable, it folds up. So these are currently being given to people across the world that are struggling, that are refugees. The second one over here that I personally think is just fantastic and a prime example of fashion meets function is by a pharmacist turned designer named Sarah DaCosta, who unfortunately was, and Paula knows her, so it's very fantastic. The bra that she actually designed releases cancer medicine for people that are suffering from breast cancer, for women, and it gets rid of some of the side effects to it, so some of the stomach issues that happen with it. And she put a lot of this, it was inspired by a headscarf that would actually release medicine into the scalp as well. The next iteration of this is for men. She's working on underwear for those that have prostate cancer and also different things for patients with dementia. So again, we see this again, it's fashion, it's functional, it has a purpose, and it is the future of design. Quickly, I'm going to really quickly touch on rewriting the rules. We're living longer than ever. I said in the beginning, there's 5 generations living side by side. That's the most it's been in the world. Middle age, according to the International Aging Society, is now 76. So there we go. Big win. And as we're doing this, we need to rewrite the rules of what matters and what does aging look like and how do we make inclusive design for people as we're aging up. We're not growing old, we're refiring, not retiring. So there's different products and services that are coming together. One really brief one is on the left, and it's a designer out of New York who essentially said, you know, hearing aids always looked very bulky and people didn't want to wear them, but if you look at now with iPhones and earbuds, everyone's wearing hearing aids. So she envisions hearing aids as a luxury item that can be changed to wear whatever you want. So she does many examples. These are actually real diamonds. It's a working hearing aid, and that's how she says that we'll make aging kind of glamorous and fun, and we can all actually dress up and go out. The last and final trend again, sorry I'm rushing through, I want to be really respectful of everyone else at the keynote's time, is improbable collaborations. And this is one when we started working with Altagalma and Paolo, this is one we felt was really interesting and had a lot of impact for the team. So we're looking at new creative partnerships and strategies to solve complex design issues, but more importantly, solve complex social issues. So Balenciaga is a prime example. They partnered in autumn-winter 18 with the World Food Program and made a commitment through 2030 to do all they can to end hunger. And what's interesting is the brand told us, this partnership is a step towards making fashion useful beyond just its purpose, and again, having a social good. There's also a UK interdisciplinary company called Sperry, which just very honestly, guys, it's a very buttoned up organization. They do fun things like taxes, and they've now partnered with creatives to figure out how we can actually make creatives fun and how we can have that alignment. So if that doesn't sound strange, probably the strangest one that we're tracking right now is Budweiser and Mars. There you go. So Budweiser announced that they want to be the first beer in space, and they want to colonize Mars. So when you get off the spaceship, you have a Budweiser. I don't know who would want to do that. If you want to colonize with champagne, call me. So Budweiser has basically sent up, this is a true story, sent up 3,500 barley seeds and is currently cultivating it in Mars to see not only can we grow things in zero gravity, but how do we do it? And then really quickly, we're looking at this idea of systems, not stuff. So while politics and kind of government institutions are looking to creatives to solve problems, creatives themselves are saying, how do we embed ourselves in institutions? And it's really fascinating because they're taking the bull by the horns and kind of creating their own way. At the forefront of this charge is University of the Underground. It's by London artist Nellie Ben-Huen, and she says, another form of education, one in which you will learn to navigate the systems from the inside out. So it's essentially embedded counterculture shifts and activism into everything you do. A recent Harvard graduate students have launched the Resistance School. It's a free online school for 6 weeks to teach you basically how to fight the man. And what we're really fascinating with is this idea of there's no longer going to be hierarchies in the future. It's this idea of there will be wierarchies, meaning different people working together and kind of breaking down those traditional structures. And then very quickly, we're going to talk about sustainable futures. And this is about, again, fashion coming together to solve complex problems. So the three that I'll go through very fast is sportswear brand Reebok recently partnered with Gensler to figure out what is the future of petrol stations if automated cars go away. What's going to happen to all these gas stations? So they've envisioned it by making them gyms that you can come and work out and it will power the city. So they said you can literally turn your lights on by running with us. This is Goodyear's new oxygen tire. It is proof of concept. So it runs on photosynthesis. As you drive the car, the moss releases oxygen. And so this tire company that's obviously struggling right now with sustainability issues is saying that's really the way forward. And then our final one that I would urge everyone to kind of look at and do your own analysis as people lose faith in government and corporations, if people lose faith in government and banking organizations, corporations are actually stepping in to fix wider social problems. And Larry Fink, who is the CEO of BlackRock, said in January, it's a huge investor firm, he said that the future for us is for us to invest in you now, you need to have a good business, you need to be good for us to be good with you. And we're seeing a lot of brands joining this political dialogue. At WGSN, we call it brand stands. It doesn't necessarily have to be political, it has to be impactful. So one of the ones in the US that we're tracking is Amazon is opening up homeless shelters throughout America. The first one opens next year in Seattle. It will fit 3,000 people. Lidl is doing something similarly in the UK where they are opening up public housing. They're funding it. Another big one that we're watching in the States that's kind of coming on really strong is Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, and JP Morgan are coming together to fix our healthcare problems. That's a whole other trend talk. And then when they announced that they were coming through, Apple followed suit, and Apple said, we're going to create something called AC WealthCare, which is free healthcare for all Apple employees. For those of you who may not know, in America, we pay a lot of money for our insurance and our medicine, so this is a huge game changer. And so at the end of the day, we want to kind of ask, will 2020 in certain countries usher in this dawn of corporate care, and what does that look like? Sorry for going over, guys. Here's our information. Lisa and myself are here all day. If you guys have any questions, please come up to us. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.